Beloved soul, lean in with every fiber of your attention, because what is unfolding in this moment is not entertainment, not coincidence, not another inspirational message drifting past your eyes, but a direct interruption of your ordinary perception by a truth that has been waiting for the exact second you were strong enough to hear it. And the reason your heart is already beating a little differently, the reason something inside you feels both seen and exposed, is because the words reaching you now are not random. They are a summons to remember who you were before this life ever began, to understand the ache that has followed you since childhood, to decode the strange weight you have carried in silence while pretending to be like everyone else, and to finally put language to that haunting sensation that you are in the world, but never fully of it, that you have played the human role convincingly enough to survive, yet never convincingly enough to belong, that even in rooms full of laughter, there has been a private distance inside you no one could cross, and you have questioned yourself for it, judged yourself for it, tried to fix yourself for it, when the reality is far more staggering and far more sacred than anything psychology alone could explain. Because you are not simply a sensitive person, not merely an old soul, not just someone with a big heart. You are a being of heavenly origin who entered flesh on purpose, a messenger wrapped in mortality, a warrior of light, operating behind the veil of human limitation. And the disorientation you have felt is not dysfunction but displacement, the natural consequence of eternity, learning to breathe inside time. And the forces of darkness have known this about you long before you did, which is why your life has never followed an easy script, why opposition has stalked your steps in patterns too precise to be called bad luck, why certain battles have found you without invitation, why sabotage has erupted right when breakthrough was near, because your presence here is not neutral. It is a threat, and the kingdom of shadows does not waste energy fighting those who pose no danger, but it mobilizes relentlessly against those whose awakening could shift spiritual atmospheres. And you, whether you realized it or not, have always been marked as one of those souls, which is why the attacks were designed to confuse your identity before you could claim it, to drown you in self-doubt, to convince you that your difference was deficiency, that your depth was weakness, that your sensitivity was a flaw. Because if you ever recognized the truth that you descended out of love, not exile, that you came on assignment, not accident, then fear would lose its grip and your authority would rise. And that is the moment darkness has tried to delay. But delay is not denial, and the hour of remembrance always arrives. And it is arriving for you now. So stay with this. Do not scroll past your own revelation, because what you are about to see will connect the scattered pieces of your story into a single divine pattern. And when you see it, you cannot unsee it, and everything begins to make sense through a higher lens. And if your spirit already recognizes this frequency, align yourself with it fully. Engage with this message. Signal your readiness to receive more, because participation is agreement, and agreement opens doors in the unseen. And now, understand something sacred that religion often hinted at, but rarely unpacked. Heaven's messengers have walked the earth in human form before, moving through ordinary lives with extraordinary purposes hidden beneath the surface. And the idea is not symbolic poetry but spiritual reality. Because eternity is not locked outside time, it intersects it. And not every soul wearing skin began its story here, and some arrived carrying assignments too delicate to be revealed at birth, which is why memory was veiled, not as punishment but protection. Because a child conscious of cosmic identity would have become an immediate target, and so your awareness was layered, your understanding released in stages as your emotional strength grew, so that when truth finally surfaced, you would be able to carry it without shattering. And that surfacing is what you are experiencing, and the signs have always been there, woven through your life like clues in a mystery you were living from the inside. The first being that deep, unexplainable loneliness that never matched your circumstances, an existential homesickness that no relationship, no achievement, no social success ever fully cured, because you have missed a realm you cannot name, a familiarity beyond language, and ordinary companionship cannot satisfy a soul that remembers celestial belonging. And the second sign has been your overwhelming empathy, the way other people's emotions do not simply register, but move through your body as if they were your own, leaving you drained after gatherings, heavy after conversations, carrying burdens no one saw you pick up, because you were designed as a conduit for healing frequencies, but without understanding, you carried everyone without boundaries. And the third sign has been the strange pattern of rejection from certain people who could never explain why you bothered them, authority figures who treated you with suspicion, peers who excluded you without cause, because light exposes what prefers darkness, and some react to that exposure with hostility, not knowing they are responding to a spiritual contrast. And the fourth sign has been your near physical intolerance for falseness, the way small talk that masks truth exhausts you, the way pretending feels like suffocation, because your core is calibrated to authenticity and dissonance hurts. And the fifth sign has been the natural abilities that surfaced without formal training, intuition that proved right, a calming presence that soothed others, a connection to animals or nature that felt effortless, because your spiritual blueprint has always leaked through the human layer. And the sixth sign has been the repeated, targeted disruptions that appeared whenever you approached something meaningful, doors closing suddenly, plans collapsing mysteriously, your progress resisted at key moments, because resistance intensifies around purpose. And the seventh sign has been that quiet longing for home during still moments, a nostalgia with no address, which is your soul remembering light beyond this dimension. And if these resonate deeply, you are not imagining it, you are remembering, and now understand why you would choose such a path, because Earth is in a season of decision, a tipping point in collective consciousness, and evolution toward greater love or descent into deeper fear is influenced not only by systems, but by souls. And some spirits volunteered to anchor higher frequencies here, to hold hope when others collapse, to model compassion when cruelty rises, to remind humanity of its divine origin by embodying it under pressure. And you agreed to this knowing it would be hard, knowing you would forget, and have to rediscover yourself through struggle, because love chose mission over comfort. And this stands in direct contrast to the ancient rebellion of pride, which is why the adversary resents you, because you represent the choice he refused. Humility over self-exaltation, service over domination, love over ego. And your life is a living contradiction to his narrative, and that fuels opposition, yet awakening changes everything. Because once you consciously step into your identity, manipulation loses power. Clarity replaces confusion. Synchronicities guide you. Dormant gifts intensify. Solitude becomes sacred instead of lonely. And an inner peace anchors you that chaos cannot shake. But with that comes responsibility, living authentically without shrinking, serving without self-destruction, discerning where to invest your energy, and working faithfully even when unseen. And your near future reflects this shift through relationship changes, vocational realignment, and deepening inner calm. And you are not the only one. Others are awakening too, drawn together by invisible guidance, forming networks of light that amplify impact, and the process is ongoing. Layer after layer, challenge after challenge, each expanding your capacity, and now you see your story differently. You were never broken, never misplaced, never forgotten. You were positioned, prepared, protected for this hour. And the attacks did not mean you were cursed but called. The loneliness did not mean you were unwanted, but otherworldly. And the stirring you feel now is activation. So respond, declare your alignment, connect with this stream of revelation, share it with those who carry the same ache, step into the tools available to help you operate wisely without burnout, and continue forward knowing you are supported by forces of light beyond what eyes can see, because you are not merely surviving history, you are helping shape its spiritual outcome. And heaven has not withdrawn its hand from your life. It has been guiding you toward this remembrance all along. And as this remembrance deepens, something inside you that has been clenched for years begins to loosen, not because your external life has suddenly become simple, but because the internal war over your identity is ending. And when that war ends, an entirely new level of strength becomes available to you. The kind that does not come from adrenaline or willpower, but from alignment. And alignment is what heaven has always been moving you toward, even through the detours, even through the heartbreaks, even through the seasons where you thought you were being punished when in reality you were being positioned. Because there were environments you had to outgrow, illusions you had to see through, dependencies that had to break, and false identities that had to collapse before your true one could stand without interference. And you may look back now and see periods of your life that felt like nothing but loss. Friendships dissolving, dreams falling apart, doors closing without explanation. And at the time it felt like abandonment, like failure, like the universe had turned against you. But from this higher vantage point, you begin to see the mercy in those removals, because you cannot carry celestial assignment while clinging to attachments that anchor you to a version of yourself that was built only for survival, not for purpose. And every stripping was making room. Every ending was a clearing. Every disappointment was a divine edit, removing what could not go where you are going. And the pain of those seasons does not mean they were mistakes. It means transformation was in progress, because becoming who you truly are always feels like dying to who you thought you had to be. And this is where many souls try to turn back, because the in-between space, where the old identity has fallen but the new one is still forming, feels like free fall. And the mind calls it instability, but the spirit calls it rebirth. And you have been in that passage, that narrow corridor between worlds, longer than you realized, learning not to rely on applause, not to define yourself by roles, not to mistake comfort for calling. And now that inner scaffolding is strong enough to hold revelation without collapsing, which is why deeper understanding is being entrusted to you. And with that understanding comes a shift in how you interpret resistance, because what once felt like proof you were on the wrong path now becomes confirmation you are approaching the right one. And instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this preparing me for?" And that single shift moves you from victimhood to authority, from reaction to participation, from confusion to curiosity. And spiritual authority is not loud arrogance. It is quiet certainty, the kind that does not need to dominate because it knows where it stands. And as this certainty grows, you will notice fear losing its automatic power over your decisions. Not because fear vanishes, but because it is no longer the voice you obey. And you begin choosing based on resonance instead of pressure, alignment instead of approval, obedience to inner guidance instead of obedience to external expectation. And this is one of the clearest signs that awakening is stabilizing inside you, because the need to be understood by everyone weakens while the need to be true strengthens. And you start releasing the exhausting task of managing other people's perceptions, understanding that your responsibility is faithfulness, not reputation. And this frees enormous energy that had been trapped in people-pleasing patterns. Energy that now becomes available for creation, for service, for the work you actually came here to do. And do not mistake this for selfishness, because living in alignment with your divine design is one of the greatest gifts you can offer the world, as misaligned service eventually breeds resentment and burnout, while aligned service multiplies impact without draining your soul dry. And this is where you must learn a sacred rhythm of output and renewal, because even celestial messengers in human bodies require restoration. And ignoring your limits is not holiness, it is imbalance. And you are not meant to be a martyr to everyone's chaos. You are meant to be a lighthouse. And lighthouses do not run around saving every ship. They stand where they are assigned and shine consistently. And those who are meant to be guided by that light will come into its range. And this understanding protects you from the trap of overextending into situations where you are not called, because discernment is as holy as compassion. And there will be people who interpret your boundaries as rejection, but boundaries are not rejection, they are stewardship of your assignment. And you must remember that your yes only carries power when your no is also intact. And as you practice this, your energy field becomes clearer, less entangled, less drained by unconscious agreements, and you begin to notice a difference in the quality of your interactions. Fewer surface connections, more meaningful ones, fewer conversations that leave you depleted, more that leave you strengthened. And this is not coincidence, it is calibration. Your frequency stabilizing at a level that attracts resonance and repels dissonance. And this can feel lonely at first, because quantity decreases before quality increases. But stay steady, because the right souls are being positioned, and when they enter your life, there will be a recognition deeper than personality compatibility, a sense of shared origin, shared mission, shared spiritual vocabulary that requires no translation. And these connections are not for distraction. They are for reinforcement, because no light bearer is meant to operate entirely alone forever, even if solitude has been a primary training ground. And when these alignments occur, you will feel both relief and responsibility, because mutual recognition amplifies accountability. You see each other not only as companions, but as witnesses to each other's calling. And this raises the standard you hold yourself to. And as your network of aligned souls forms, the collective field you generate begins influencing environments in ways that are subtle but real. Shifts in atmosphere, unexpected openings, conflicts diffused, hope rekindled, and you may never receive public credit for these shifts. But the spiritual impact is not measured by visibility, it is measured by vibration, and your life is becoming an instrument through which higher frequencies enter dense spaces. And instruments must stay tuned, which is why inner work never stops. Healing layers you did not know were there. Confronting shadows, not to shame yourself, but to clear interference, because unresolved wounds distort transmission, and the more honest you are with your own healing, the clearer the light that moves through you. And do not be discouraged when new layers surface. It does not mean you are regressing, it means you are going deeper, and depth increases capacity, and capacity increases impact. And as this cycle continues, you will look back at the person you were years ago and feel compassion rather than embarrassment, understanding that version of you did the best it could with the awareness it had. And this compassion toward your past self becomes compassion toward others still in earlier stages. And this prevents spiritual pride, because remembering your own process keeps you humble and patient. And humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is seeing yourself accurately as a vessel, not the source, as a participant in something greater, not the originator of it. And this balance between confidence and humility is a hallmark of mature awakening. And as you walk in it, your presence itself becomes a message, even when you are not speaking, even when you are simply being. Because regulated nervous systems regulate rooms, peaceful hearts calm chaos, anchored spirits stabilize environments, and you will start to notice people opening up to you without knowing why, trusting you with their pain, feeling safe in your presence. And this is not random. It is the byproduct of the inner authority you have cultivated through surviving your own storms. And you are no longer easily shaken because you have been shaken before and did not break. And this history with difficulty has carved depth into you that cannot be manufactured. And depth is what allows true ministry of presence, the kind that does not need perfect words, only authenticity. And as you continue forward, remember that the journey does not move in a straight upward line. There will still be dips, still be days of doubt, still be moments where old fears whisper, but now you have reference points, evidence of guidance, memories of provision, experiences of resilience that remind you you are not starting from scratch each time. And this builds spiritual memory, a storehouse of testimony inside you that strengthens trust. And trust is the bridge between revelation and embodiment. Because knowing truth is one thing, living from it is another, and embodiment is the goal. Truth becoming flesh in your daily choices, your relationships, your work, your inner dialogue. And as this embodiment increases, your life itself becomes prophetic, not in predicting events but in revealing possibility, showing others what alignment looks like in motion, what courage looks like in vulnerability, what faith looks like in uncertainty. And this quiet demonstration may influence more lives than any platform ever could. And so continue, steady, surrendered, aware that you are held within a story larger than you can see, that your steps are being ordered in ways your mind cannot always map, that even delays serve timing, and even detours serve positioning, and you are not late, not behind, not forgotten. You are exactly where your becoming requires you to be, and the same presence that called you into this mission walks with you through it, not observing from a distance but inhabiting your very breath. And as you move forward from this point, do so with the knowing that you are not trying to become someone else. You are allowing who you have always been to fully arrive, layer by layer, choice by choice, until heaven's intention for your life is no longer a hidden blueprint, but a lived reality expressed through your human story.